And I think we're live. So, hey guys, hey comrades, welcome to this channel. My name's William Morrison. I'm your British Marxist Leninist and anti imperialist comrade over here, over the pond in Britain. And today I'm joined with my three American comrades right now, joined with Gene, Nils, and Kaiden, who are all American comrades over in the USA. And this live stream is dedicated to them, just kind of talking to them about a new organization that they're setting up. So yeah, I just heard maybe a week ago or something that you guys are making a new American kind of organization. So yeah, I thought it was a good opportunity to come just invite you guys onto the channel and let you kind of have a platform, just let you kind of talk about it a little bit. Promote yourself. That's what we're all about here at this channel. We're not into this liberal stuff. We're not going to tear people down or cancel or slander. We're here to build people up, build bridges with different communities. Even when we don't 100%, agree, that's completely fine. We're adults, we're comrades, at the end of the day, and we're here to support each other 100%. So just going to go around with a round table, just a little introduction. So I'm just going to start off with Gene. How are you guys? How are you, Gene? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Like you said, my name's Gene. I'm from South Carolina. Originally, I lived the first 6 years of my life in Florida, but I've pretty much lived here most of my life.
Right.
As you can imagine, I grew up in the Bible Belt, so I'm pretty conservative, traditionalist views. I first started getting into Marxism when I was actually over there near you when I attended the University of Edinburgh for philosophy, minoring in civics, political science, and history. I've grown since then because I used to be a little liberal myself, but I've actually studied theory over the years and I've come to a better understanding of the theory. And I do understand that communism, it isn't going to work the same everywhere because different nations have different material conditions. And so recently, after the dissolution of the CPI, me, Nils here, Kaiden, and several other comrades started working together to try to build a party for America to bring communism with American characteristics.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to hear that you kind of come from a traditionalist, kind of conservative upbringing too. I do too. I was brought up pretty kind of nationalistic, quite right wing. Yeah, definitely raised quite conservative. So it's really interesting to hear that. It's really interesting when you talk about people who are also communists, their journeys and how they came to communism. They're all completely different. Some people came from like a liberal left perspective, and then some people came from a more conservative. We're all different. We all have our own individual journeys, and it's really, really interesting. So yeah, thanks for that. And yeah, it's good to hear that you studied in Edinburgh University. Yeah, I'm only maybe 2-hour drive here in Scotland. Interesting. Yeah, moving on to our second guest, we have Nils. So yeah, if you can just introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I'm Nils Love. I was born and raised in South Texas to a ranching family. So when I was young, because I was raised very traditionally, I had a breaking with my family, which sent me on kind of this is like in the 90s, like what would be called a gutter punk odyssey, where I hopped trains and lived all around the country, all 4 time zones. I was pretty much an anarchist. During the late 90s, I was involved in the black, but a bunch of my good friends were. So I was black bloc adjacent. A bunch of my friends were at Seattle during the WTO World Bank program, and so they the IMF. So they like anyway they've been doing is people have been coming out against anti-imperialists using the term global.
All right, wait, two secs. You're breaking up a little bit. 2 secs.
You've got some connection issues.
Yeah, give me 2 secs.
There.
You're breaking up a little bit. There's some static.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right. No worries.
You're good. Technical difficulties.
Okay. Yeah. Where was it? Anyway, I for a while I divorced myself from politics. I got a good grounding in anarchism, which helped get me out of some of the attitudes I've been raised with, which weren't all bad. I'll come back to that. But just I needed to break, and I did. And I was raised Roman Catholic, and I was an atheist from the time I was 13 to the time I was 43. So for 30 years, I'm 44 now. So for 30 years, I was an atheist. I recently came back to my Christian faith. And to me, there's no conflict between that and Marxism in any way. So
All right,
I
yeah.
had an awakening. I had an awakening about 7 years ago. I met the love of my life, and we're raising a son. And it kind of snapped me out of my kind of lumpen, adventurous days. The 20 years I spent, kind of thinking I was Huck Finn or something, Odysseus. So that gave me a family and it gave me some values.
Yeah, we've lost your connection, Nils.
Your sound went completely out, Nils. Yeah, I'm not hearing you. I think your mic either went out or.
Yeah. Try and sort your mic out. In the meantime, while we wait for Nils, we can go to Kaiden. So if you can introduce a little yourself, Kaiden, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, yes, my name is Kaiden. I'm from Utah in the United States. I'm 21 years old, so I'm not super experienced. I don't have a ton of life experience, but I came to the left originally. Well, first of all, I come from a liberal family. My parents and my grandparents and everyone around me are liberal for sure. And
All right.
I first got my experience within politics when the whole Bernie Sanders 2016. I went to a couple Bernie rallies. Fun fact: I was going to join the Marines, but that around the time the George Floyd and BLM protests started happening, and so I kind of got turned off from the military as a whole. So I didn't.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
never ended up joining, but then I went into like the synthetic left route a lot. Like I was definitely a red lib, as what you'd call them, for a few years. But then, well, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I've found Infrared and Caleb Maupin, and ever since then, they've kind of been teaching me the correct path, I guess, and teaching me the real history about the working class in the United States. And they've just kind of beat the ultra leftist middle class kid out of me, and and I guess that's where I'm at today.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, it was a good introduction. It's good to meet other young people. You said you were 21. That's good. I'm only 19 myself, so I'm also young, comrade. You're older than me, so thanks for being here. I mean, we are the future. Our generation, young people, we are the future. So it's always good to network with other young communists because a lot of people don't have the opportunity that we do to get this education at our age. Most people, it comes a lot later in life. So well done, for sure. But yeah, no worries. So yeah, thanks guys for introducing yourself. I heard about half of what Nils said. Do you want to try out your audio one more time to see if it's working?
Yeah, your mic it's not working. Like I see your
you're
mouth moving.
still. Hey, why don't? Yeah, it's okay. Why don't you try and leave and then come back and then see if it works there?
I think. Oh no, that was you. Never mind, William.
If he joins back, then we'll invite him back. It might just be a little technical glitch. It's okay. Anyways,
Okay.
just moving on. Anyway, just some information about your organization. So you guys are taking part in setting up a new American organization. Is that right?
Yes. We are the Radical Republican Party. As Kent stated in our opening mission objective that I had sent you, our goal is to unite patriotic socialists, libertarians, the MAGA crowd, etc., the conservative Americans, which is the bulk of America, unite them against our real enemies, the deep state and imperialism. And the liberals, they oftentimes use as their shields.
Yeah.
I'm going to resend them the invite.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. No, yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard a lot of criticism about all this, uniting with the patriotic socialists and uniting with kind of the MAGA crowd. How would you respond to that kind of criticism? Because there are a lot of people who, I thought were genuine, solid Marxist-Leninists that are kind of coming out really, really strongly against this whole kind of alliance with the Trump supporters and the MAGA crowd. So how would you, as an organization, how would you respond to that?
I think the easiest way to examine that would be through the lens of Dugan and his fourth political theory. Essentially, MAGA communism. It's that. It's Dugan's idea, but applied instead of to Eurasia to America.
Okay, yeah. So you'd say that your organization is quite heavily influenced by kind of Dugan's kind of theories on geopolitics and international relations.
Dugan, Marx, even Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt, because a lot of people don't know this, and I'm sure especially those that aren't American, but Teddy Roosevelt in history ran on the only third party to actually win a presidential election, the Bull Moose Party. The Bull Moose Party was all about trust busting, workers' rights, and several other things like universal health care, education, etc. Then, on the Lincoln aspect, we know from letters of correspondence that Lincoln actually wrote to Marx on a few different occasions, and he actually liked what Marx was doing. That and his Secretary of Defense was a Marxist who had actually met Marx twice on diplomatic missions, such as at the Paris Commune.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I've read kind of a lot of works from Engels and Karl Marx, who spoke very, very highly of the American Revolution against the British Empire. They were very, very enthusiastic about what America might turn into because of the revolution. They spoke very, very highly of the American Revolution against the British Empire. So definitely interesting. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you said that a lot. I mean, one of your fundamental kind of principles is unity with lots of different people. So you want to unite with, kind of the more kind of traditionalist, kind of conservative aspects of the working class. And obviously, I mean, most communists would agree that obviously, it's important to unite the working class as communists. We can't be seen to like just hate entire segments of the working class. We need to come together, and as long as we do end up out on top, like if we're Marxist Leninists, like I am, obviously I'm very much in support of a vanguard movement. So I'd very much like the Marxist Leninist vanguard to lead the masses. So how would you kind of respond to people that say that uniting with the conservatives isn't necessarily kind of mutual aid, and it's more like some communists will end up just joining them and some of them will end up joining us? It's not really bringing them on board. How would you respond to that?
I'll let Kaiden take the floor on this one because he's actually been studying Comrade Kent's book, and as much of Haas as he watches, I'm sure he can explain this.
Yeah, no worries.
In my opinion, I think that to address the criticism that we've been getting is that I think it's so fundamental for leftists to understand that we can't rely just on building coalitions and bridges with people who already agree with us. We need to organize it on class interests first and foremost. We can't just stay in ideological bubbles. We have to reach out to conservatives. We have to reach out to libertarians. We have to reach out to the apolitical. And the apolitical part is important because a lot of our critics think that we're just focusing on just conservatives or just MAGA or something like that, but it's more broad than that. It's about the MAGA movement as a whole. It's about and I know that not all people in the MAGA movement are working class. You can definitely point to some exceptions to that rule. But yeah, MAGA as a whole is more working class oriented than any leftist circle or Democrat circle that I've seen in my entire life. And I think it's just very important for communists and Marxist-Leninists and anybody who wants political change through the working class. They have to come to this reality, whether they like it or not. And those are just my 2 cents.
Yeah, so you'd say that kind of your main concern, or not concern, but one of your strongest kind of responses to this is just breaking out of the echo chamber. Communists
Exactly.
are not going to achieve what we want to achieve if we're just going to stay into an echo chamber and only work or speak to people who we agree with all the time. That will
Right.
just become like a stagnant, kind of toxic kind of parasite in politics. And
Mhm.
actually, what you guys are trying to do is go out of your comfort zone, do the job that nobody else kind of wants, and actually go out to the masses and speak to lots and lots of different people with lots and lots of different mindsets.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. It's a fairly solid response to the criticism, I guess. I've heard a lot of, I have quite a diverse kind of following, or I have a very diverse kind of friends group on Facebook, for example. So I have a lot of mixture of reactions. So, it's good to hear from both sides for sure, So I'm glad you guys came on and are standing your ground and speaking up for your side of the argument. So yeah, moving on. Technically, maybe you've already touched on this before, but like, what's your main vision for the USA? Well, what would your ideal America look like?
Nils, do you want to take the floor on this question?
Well, let's see if I can be heard. Do you hear my voice right now?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can
we can
hear
hear
you
you a lot
now.
better.
Awesome.
Okay, fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
So part of what I was going to say earlier ties into this. So I came out of kind of a lumping period and back into my earlier anarchism, and I was really concerned at the time. This is about 5, 6 years ago, with the environment, and I started to
Okay.
realize I was really afraid of. This is when I was really afraid of like Stalin. But I started thinking about the environment more and more, and I started realizing if you really care about the environment, you need a centrally planned economy. As long as anybody can do whatever they want, we're never going to stop whatever concerns, whether it's economic concerns like unemployment or whether it's economic concerns like environmental degradation. It kind of comes down to a centrally planned economy. So for me, the American future I want is one where the American war machine is completely curtailed and destroyed, dismantled. What can be salvaged is used to rebuild our soft power around the world and make up for some of the awful shit we pulled. And
Hmm.
then, then a centrally planned economy where we can like actually prosper and then, try to live up to some of the fine ideals that our founders and many of the people like Eugene Debs or Emma Goldman or people more modern, Fred Hampton. We have people like these. There's nothing to celebrate. You can celebrate the struggle or you can celebrate what's good about the bad parts. But the American left wants to put everything in a box that says dangerous. And there's nothing that makes me more interested in a thing than you telling me that's dangerous because I don't believe anything can really stop me. So, to be brief on this point, I'm not a MAGA or a Republican. I am a Marxist Leninist theorist. And I have a brief allegory, okay, that I'd like to explain. This is more for people listening than any of y'all, including you, William. But it's a little story that explains how I look at this MAGA communism from a historian. I specialize in ancient history, but also anthropology, all the humanities. If it's humanity, I've studied it.
Okay. Yeah.
Philosophy, theology, right. So I do it from that perspective. So I do an allegory. So the American political system is a two-party system. On one side, you have the biggest wall you've ever seen. Lore says it's impenetrable. You look at the base of it; it's made of the hardest stone. Your eyes follow it up to the sky, and the top of it disappears in the clouds. It's like a little eagle, or whatever. And then you look at the other side, the Democrat side. You start where you were looking at the wall where it disappeared. On the Democrat side, it's still also clouds and blue skies and chirping birds and the treetops and the forest. And you look at the ground between you and this forest, and it's rich and pitted with holes that have blown up bodies of social movements. It has iron obstacles like D-Day with movements hanging off of it. Whatever movement you want to talk about. Like they're
Yeah.
just hanging off. And there's the Democrats in the forest going, come on, communists, come on, socialists, we can do it. We can do all those good things you want. But I'm looking at all those blown up bodies of movements. I'm saying, I don't, no one's tried that. So is it absurd to try to climb the wall that everyone says can't be climbed? Or is it absurd to run through the no man's land where all the bodies of the movements that come before you are laying splayed out for the flies and the crows? So I'm going to take some of my buddies and we're going to use a grappling hook. And without actually being a Republican or or a MAGA or whatever. I'm going to help agitate towards Republican progressivism because the Democrats literally are where movements go to die. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, that was a really the descriptive kind of image or analogy you kind of used there. Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's really helps paint a very, very clear picture. Just
Thank
how, yeah, yeah. There's a comment there. Somebody else liked your allegory.
You got to be strategic and tactical. You got to look at your overall strategy. You got to look at how you're going to get there. And one thing that all of us here in this show have in common is we want to organize power around the proletarian class and take it for the people. And if I have to work with someone I disagree with, we can settle our hash when the smoke clears and we have power. If you're trying to purity test before you take power, you'll never get it, especially in America. I don't know about too much about y'all's. Actually, I know more than I might let on about Britain and stuff. But in America, for instance, because it's a two-party spoil system, winner take all, it's very important that we work together and we don't disregard any group. I mean, no matter how much I don't want, like, everyone on the left is like, let's kill Nazis. I'm like, let's turn Nazis into communists. I mean, we have to fight a Nazi. I mean, whatever. Like, that's life. I mean, sometimes life puts you in conflict with something else. It doesn't have to be bad or good. But if you're looking at somebody you disagree with, even vehemently, and your only attitude is you got to beat them up or kill them, then you're not really a communist. A communist, in my opinion, who's vanguarding for positive social revolution through Marxism, you're not trying to kill anyone. You're trying to bring prosperity to everyone. You want your enemies to join your forces. You don't want to destroy them. And so there's this attitude that, like, everything is disposable, and our opinions, or whether we like something or dislike it, is more important than what is it trying to do. And so, like, I've already dealt with a bunch of posts where people are like, "Oh, MAGA is the white supremacist organization." Well, I live in a neighborhood in Rochester, New York, inner city, that's 90% black, and probably a third of the voters. A lot of people here don't vote, right? But a third of the people who vote here vote MAGA. So you're calling them white supremacists, or you're taking their agency away, like they're not adults who can reject liberalism just like any other person, right? So, anyway, I'm just going on and on. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm all over
I say much appreciate. Yeah, no, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, I think it's completely childish and immature to just call like 45% of the entire working class of your nation white supremacists because they vote a certain way. They're not. I mean, a very small portion might be. Sure. I mean, yeah, of course.
Sure.
Well, that isn't a general rule for the entire votership of that kind of belief system.
Right.
It's very childish to suggest otherwise. But yeah, I mean, a running thread here on this live stream is just pretty much just uniting with people, speaking and working with people who we disagree with, building bridges with different communities. And
also,
I mean,
sorry.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. I can't stress how important that is enough. I mean, I've been very strong on this too. I just hate when so-called communists on the internet are like, yeah, I'm a Marxist-Leninist and blah blah blah. Like, yeah, Stalin did nothing wrong, and then like somebody says something like about identity politics, and it's like, oh my god, you're a goddamn Nazball, and they just block you, and it's like, you have absolutely no ounce of Marxist-Leninist analysis in your fiber of your being. It's unbelievably childish and liberal, and I mean, communists. That's how you can tell whether you're a real communist, because we stay away from that. We stay clear away from all that internet drama and stuff, just the shouting at each other. We get rid of all that drama. We're actually real people. We're out on the streets talking to people. We're not associated with any of this kind of woke mob that are just trying to tear people down. Hey, we got a Russian comrade here who's just trying to say hi. Vladimir Tribushuk. My name is Vladimir. I'm from Siberia. I was raised in an ordinary family of workers. As many people of my generation, I was indoctrinated in traditionalist patriotic views and self-taught to be a Marxist. See, yeah, definitely. Like we were just talking about that earlier in the live stream. A lot of people have their own journeys into how they become a communist, but a lot of people, believe it or not, do come from a conservative background. We're not all evil Nazis. We're not all evil white supremacists. Some of us are open-minded and we are willing to, see a different view, which we all were, and that's how we came to where we are now. So yeah, thanks for that, Vladimir. I really, really appreciate that. Anyway, moving on to the next question. I guess you've already answered this. I just kind of want to know specifically, like, what ideology influences this new organization the most. So, how would you like label? I mean, I know liberals tend to be the ones who label things, but if you were to like kind of give yourself an ideological name, what would it be? Would it be like Marxist-Leninist, or would it be anti-imperialist, or would you just be happy with saying not really any of those things? We're just a mixture of lots of different kind of progressive ideas. I'll give that to Gene, and then I'll get you the rest of you to add on anything else.
I feel like I said, our ideals are mostly based around patriotic socialism as well as Marxism Leninism, because as part of patriotic socialism, socialism in itself is patriotic because it is a love for the people and the community. And as stated, Lenin understood this too. Lenin worked with people that weren't necessarily agreed with his theory, but they came to in time. And that's pretty much our goal. Another person described us, and this would honestly, in my opinion, be suiting Marxist Leninists even.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, especially by your comrade Kent. He seems to be like the one who coined the whole term of patriotic socialism and Marxism Lincolnism. I think it was Kent himself that coined those terms. So interesting, interesting twist on like American Marxism Leninism. Definitely an interesting twist.
That's the book Kaiden's been studying, is Kent's Class Analysis and Revolution.
All right, yeah, cool. When this live stream gets uploaded, I'll try and find the link to that book somewhere, or anything that hints to it, just so I can promote it. I can put it in the comment section to promote it, or the description. Yeah, for sure. So
Nils, your voice cut out again. Yeah, your lips are moving, but no sound.
Yeah, you're still muted. It's all right. It's all good.
I don't know what keeps happening on Nils' end, yo.
It's all right. You can leave again and join back, or you can. Yeah, it's all right. It's all good.
It's all good. Technical difficulties.
It's all good. So yeah, I mean, I'll just ask Kaiden. Would you agree with what Gene said, or do you think that the organization, this new kind of communist American organization that you guys are setting up, do you think those two ideologies are the main influences, patriotic socialism and Marxism-Leninism, or is there anything else you want to add, or do you generally agree with that?
Yeah, I would say Marxism-Leninism is like the underpinning of everything that we do, but we draw from any influence that we can, like Gene did bring up Dugin. We don't just follow the communists, like Marx, Engels, Lenin, Mao, and Stalin. We do draw from other influences that speak to our current material conditions, in the same way that Lenin drew from several non-Marxist thinkers. Well, we're going to do the same to try to apply it to our own conditions. And yeah, I would generally agree that it is underpinning of patriotic socialism and Marxism-Leninism / Marxism-Lincolnism. And yeah, I pretty much agree.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for
that. Nils, are you working now? Can you talk?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you. That might just be what we have to do every time you cut off. Just leave and join back again, and then it should work again for another 20 minutes. Right. That seems to be what we need to do. It's all good. Yeah, I think for the next maybe half an hour, I'll probably cut the live stream off in about an hour, at the hour mark. So we'll have about half an hour left. So I'm just going to ask you. Let's get into the juicy details about what you actually the key positions of your organization when it comes to current day international politics. What's kind of your key position? So I mean, first of all, let's talk about what's happening in Russia with the Ukraine-Russian war. I know you said that you're influenced, to an extent by Dugin, and obviously Dugin is a massive, encourager. He's a massive advocate for the denazification of Ukraine. So would you kind of agree with his analysis, or what's your position on that?
I'll let Nils take the floor on this one since he cut out on the last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, so we are of course 100% with Russia against the Ukrainian and USA NATO just debacle. I don't think I have to tell any of us just how awful this whole thing's been. But Dugan is based. I mean, Dugan. Look, I was told to fear Caleb Maupin, and I started listening to him, and I learned a lot. Then I was told to fear Dugan, and I read him, and I learned a lot. Do I subscribe to Dugan's entire thing? Well, I don't even live in Eurasia. So as much as I want him to be successful, I'm really worried about my own people. So there's that. I mean, without being an imperialist, like I wish him the best of luck, but not at my people's expense. But at the same time, do I want him to help us here in the Accord defeat USA NATO or his philosophies that have reached people all over the world? Do I see them as allies and potential comrades? Absolutely. Absolutely. The fourth position, I don't share it, but it's nothing to be afraid of. It should be studied. The people who haven't read Dugan, I mean, people haven't even looked him up on Wikipedia and read what the CIA has to say about him. I mean, what the hell are they talking about with their opinions? Like, I listen to people have an opinion on Dugan. It would be like me having an opinion on 17th century opera or something. Like, I mean, was it in Vienna? I guess Vienna, Italy. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to have an opinion on that because I don't really listen to it. So, Dugan's just one of those things. My wife and I call these sort of things 13s, meaning like an ingrained. What we call them 13s. What they are is an ingrained taboo that is passed around in a sort of herd mind state, where individuals, because they want to keep their clout and because they don't want to earn the ire of their peers, when someone says Dugan bad, everyone has to answer back, Dugan bad. But most of the people who say that, if they read like 10 pages of what he had to say, would be like, no, this guy's actually making sense. You know what I mean? So one of the reasons why I'm agitating with these, I mean, like Gene, I don't mean this as a rebuke in any way. Like, Gene's one of my best friends. But, Gene, my brother Johnny Castro, some of these guys are traditionally more conservative than me. And that's not a problem here because I'm still more conservative than most people calling themselves MLs these days. I mean, I know I look like a hippie, but that's what I do as a hobby. I reenact the 60s. But I'm not really at heart. At heart, I have a haircut. You just got to trust me there. So, it's just very strange that people call themselves an L and they're the opposite of dialectical. It's like, don't use those letters in your byline if the first time something scares you, you delete people out of the conversation.
100%.
Synthesis. Yeah, no. So it's just really funny. At the end of the day, Dugan has to be supported because he's an anti-imperialist. I agree with him more than I disagree with him. But even if I disagreed with him more than I do, I would still support him because he is based, he's principled, and he's consistent. Some of the things he did in the 90s, I'm not necessarily really for, but I think was doing something very similar to what we're being accused of doing. He's trying to agitate. He was trying to agitate and wake. In the 90s, Russia was going through the turmoils and the upheavals after the Soviet Union had fallen. And Dugan was experimenting with different attitudes and with different power structures to try to wake the people up and get them to do something besides let the neoliberals come in and commodify all things. I mean, if the devil, and figuratively, but still very, very importantly, ever existed, it's in putting a commodification on everything that exists, on love, on romance, on security, on health. Nothing's just done out of goodness anymore. I mean, I'm not saying literally. I mean, obviously, we have families and friends, but think about how things might have been 100 years ago or 500 years ago and how they're done now. I mean, I'm worried. I have a 17-year-old son, and I'm worried about him running into people online who are going to get him addicted to OnlyFans. I mean, I'm not really worried about this. My son is a gym. I mean, he's my son, so he's not as dumb as some people's sons. But I told him no big titty goth girlfriends, nothing like that. Like, keep it wholesome. Keep it wholesome communism, And there's nothing wrong with being wholesome. And like most of the left, that's their problem. Their problem isn't with conservatism. Its problem is the conservatives being wholesome and wanting wholesome things and their whole agenda has become to destroy wholesomeness. There's no reason to do that. I mean, I was a weirdo, still technically am, don't tell anyone. I was a weirdo for years. I never wanted everyone to be like me. I liked when I didn't have a family in my 20s and my early 30s. I didn't look at families and go, ow, gross. I was like, oh, yeah, it's a family. I'm going to go party. You know what I mean? There was no resentment there. So when I politically woke up and stopped being a good time Charlie, as we call it in the South, and grew a pair of balls, I realized real quick that you know um you know what I'm saying. It's just all over the place. The culture war is so dumb. Like March is supposed to be a lens that frees us from that shit, not something we drag it all in with. I mean, like I'll give you an example. Like as an organization, we are against land back, period. But I want to
All
make
right,
something
yeah.
clear. I personally am for land back under socialism. If we take power and through democratic centralism and ranked choice voting, the people wanted to give the indigenous people of America whatever we all agreed they deserved or wanted back, I would support any of that. What I don't support is land back under this oligarchic imperial shit show. Like that is obviously an opt to divide us and to make to pretend like the Native Americans would be a good landed aristocracy like the bosses we have now. And I'm not going to trade 1-2% absentee landlord for another. Right? That's stupid. So in principle, land back is great. I care about the Native Americans. I think I'm part of your Scottish and Green Irish diaspora. And when they talk about white people being the bad guys, they're not understanding that most of the white people that came over here, they're now the descendants, of the British and of the French and of the Spanish. The diaspora, they were pushed out of the old country by material conditions. I mean, impressed me like Irish and Scottish men were impressed by the English into serving into their navy and debtors prisons and indentured servitude. There were things that I mean, Georgia was a penal colony. It was founded as a penal colony just like Australia. So a whole lot of people came to the New World, and they didn't come here to conquer the Native Americans. They came here because their bosses whipped and beat them too. I'm not saying they were slaves like chattel slavery. I'm saying material conditions are why they were here. They weren't here. I mean, did people come here for opportunities? Sure. But that first 150, 200 years that our history was built, a lot of those people came, the Ulster Scots, the Green Irish, they came because the English were giving them a hard time. Now, I'm not mad at the English. I don't want your British government to pay me to go to college or do anything. And I mean, the Irish potato famine, I'm about a third Green Irish, Irish Catholic. I was raised Mick Catholic. I'm a Mick Catholic by birth. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I lost it.
I'm going to cut you off by now. You've spoken a lot. You've said a lot of things, and I'm not going to be able to respond to all of it. So it's all right. It's cool. One thing I thought that was interesting you said earlier, you made a very clear distinction between being wholesome or what I'd call kind of straight edge and being conservative. And I think a lot of liberals and people on the internet seem to think that those two are the same thing. And I think that just because conservatives tend to be in this society the most kind of straight edge people doesn't mean that all conservatism means being straight edge. Communists like us can also be straight edge. It doesn't make us socially or culturally conservative. I personally am against the legalization of drugs for recreational use. Doesn't make me a social conservative. It does make me straight edge. I want a sober working class. I want a strong, wholesome working class. I don't want them to go into drugs. I don't want them to, I want to, discourage alcoholism and stuff like that, drugs, because those are things that, the working class people are affected by more often than the ruling class. That doesn't make me conservative, although a lot of people would label me as that. Not true at all. It's straight edge, and conservatism doesn't, they don't get to own what being straight edge is. They shouldn't anyway. Well, yeah, I mean, you said a lot of amazing stuff there, but that's one kind of. I really appreciate you making that distinction.
Absolutely.
Communists can absolutely be straight edge. We can be. We can encourage physical exercise. We can encourage healthy eating. We could encourage going to bed at a good time and getting up at a good time. We can encourage having discipline in our lives. It doesn't make us conservative. It makes us disciplined, and it makes us wholesome, and it makes us straight edge. You know, there's a complete difference there. But yeah, I definitely appreciate you saying that. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, sorry, yeah, you kind of caught me. You said so much there, you kind of caught me off guard. But going back to the point at hand, I asked you about your Russia. No surprise there. I did assume that you guys as an organization would kind of support the denazification of Ukraine, because that is the question I asked you about 10 minutes ago. But yeah, no, I have no surprise there. No surprise there at all that you guys support the denazification of Ukraine. So kind of maybe moving on to Kaiden, if you're not comfortable answering, that's all right. Just pass it on to somebody else. But just another kind of key point, obviously, you know, in today's kind of global context and in international politics, China is obviously something that's really worth talking about, especially if we're communists. So if you're comfortable enough to answer, if you're not, again, just pass it on. But what's your personal, or what's you as a representative of this organization, what's kind of your position on China? Do you think that it's kind of market socialism or state capitalism, or would you think that it's a pretty successful, or it's a country that's at least trying to strive for a socialist society?
In my opinion, we uphold China. I respect China. The things that they do are great for China. And I think that we as American Marxist-Leninists have a lot to learn from China. They're the cutting edge of Marxism-Leninism after all. But I would say is that, especially since, you know, we are representatives of the MAGA communist movement, people will look at that and see, oh, well, there's a lot of conservatives and a lot of MAGA-oriented people who are anti-China. And at least in my opinion, I think that from their perspective, I can see why they are critical of China, because to them it seems like that China took their jobs, that they're using them to build socialism, and they're affected by it. Working class people are highly affected about the deindustrialization of our country, and they would like their jobs back. And for me, I would like to say to them, well, how come we can't bring our jobs back and build socialism with them in the United States and take more jobs, and not at the so I do support China, but not at the expense of my own American people. I want to build our own infrastructure. I want to reindustrialize our country, and if that means taking jobs from China, I have no problem doing so, because I want socialism here in the United States. I want that reindustrialization and that agriculture base back in the United States, because that's really where the power lies. And if that means stepping on China's toes, then so be it. And I guess that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, yeah, thanks. Very honest response. Appreciate that. I always value honesty more than just kind of ass licking to get liked. I always value honesty over anything else. If the Vanguard ML party or your organization, if you ever kind of got to a stage where you were quite influential in American politics, or even had the main party even, so you would have or encourage friendly ties with China, I assume?
Yes, I believe that it's very important to, even if American workers aren't necessarily happy with China, the fact that they have our jobs, number one, it's not even China's fault. And number two, China with their foreign policy and their win-win situations, I think the American people can highly benefit from these policies with the Belt and Road Initiative. People talk about building the World Land Bridge that goes through Alaska and through Russia. Things like that, you know, like there's win-win. We could benefit from cooperating with China in a peaceful way, instead of trying to escalate things like Joe Biden and the Democrats did with Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. We don't want hostile relations with China. We do not want hostile relations with anyone. We want to be peaceful. We actually do want to be the country that is like the land of the free, and we want to live up to these very socialistic ideas that the American state was founded upon in the very first place. We don't want just hostility just because with any government.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kaiden. Yeah, You're a very clear speaker. I appreciate that.
Right.
Just one more question, and then I'm going to give just a little round table kind of closing statements. I'm going to let you just speak for a couple minutes each. But one last question before that. Obviously, you guys say that you're socialists, anti-imperialists, amazing stuff. So I already think I know the answer to this, but just for the people watching, just to further promote your organization, I'm assuming you're obviously against the whole war on terrorism. You regret the US and their allied military actions in Iraq, Syria, Libya. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I mean, what's your organization's kind of opinions on people like Muammar Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein or Bashar al-Assad in Syria? Like, what's your organization's position on them? I'll let Gene address that.
My honest opinion, and I'm sure these guys agree as well, the war on terror was literally just another capitalist coup for resources. It was the America saw oil and saw opium they wanted, and so they found an excuse to go to war over in the Middle East. And then when they exhausted one country, they moved on to Saddam Hussein and then Syria and Libya. Muammar Gaddafi did amazing things for his people. They had free power. They had newlyweds got $50,000 to get a home. Gaddafi himself swore that until every member of his nation had their own home, he would continue living in the Bedouin tent he grew up in. And he held true to that. And we see after America came in under Obama and couped Gaddafi, we now have open air slave markets in Libya. These are the kinds of things we see from the fallout of imperialist actions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think even apolitical people who are not even interested in politics are starting to see the absolute mess that the imperialist forces have caused in these countries. I mean, even Trump himself said that we should never have went into Libya. We should never have went into Iraq because despite maybe their geopolitical agendas not lining up with America, Iraq under Saddam Hussein and Libya under Muammar Gaddafi were a hell of a lot more peaceful, prosperous, and stable than they are now. Decades after just genocidal, atrocious war. Even Trump has made that clear. So if people like him, who is actually, as I'm sure internationally mocked, if even he's starting to kind of say this and help people come to this kind of new consciousness, it's definitely a good kind of sign to come, for sure. So yeah, Nils or Kaiden, do you have anything to add to what Gene said?
I'll let Nils go first.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
hear you.
Okay. I was just checking.
Yeah, no worries.
Trump is function. Okay, so Trump and most Trumpers, like MAGA, who really into Trump, I consider them basically one reason why I'm not like up in arms about trying to administer to them and trying to vanguard them is I consider the majority of them basically lumpen. I mean, they don't really know what socialism is, right? And as these material conditions change in the United States, many of these people, small business owners, small farmers, their economic security and their future is becoming more uncertain. So they might have been Republicans for generations because they actually owned a little bit of something, right? Had to work their whole lives, but they own their house, they own their business, they own like a ranch or something. Well, what's happening is they're getting squeezed harder and harder. And so for a lot of time, like the people who raised me were Republicans, but they weren't like Trumpers. They didn't care about being Republicans. They voted Republicans to keep their taxes low, period. The end. I mean, that's it. I mean, I remember asking my grandpa who raised me, he was born in 1912. So, he was in World War II. I remember asking him, like, why do you support Ronald Reagan? When I was a little kid, he's like, he keeps my taxes low. And I was blown away because I thought he was going to give me a speech about it. He was just like, no, my taxes are low. I was like, oh, base. I'm a time traveler. This is like 1980. But Trump and these people, they're waking up to the fact that as more and more people who were conservative deal with material conditions, it changes their relationship to the means of production, and it changes their relationship to their political reality. What we're trying to do is be there for them. We don't want them to be ignored. We don't want them to be ignorant of the possibilities of scientific socialism. And I think we'd be remiss. I mean, I'm probably going to lose clout for this. I mean, I played it very safe for most of my, career as an internet whatever guy, and I do that to have a platform. I do that to make friends and keep it dialectical. But there's some people who might hear this, what I'm saying here, and they might have a different opinion of me. But I'm really feeling like, without being mad or Republican myself, I feel like there's more promise there. So Trump coming around to some anti-imperialism is telling. It is a sign. It is a sign of things to come, and things are going to wake up. You and I will still be friends in 5 years, William, and we'll be talking about this first show and how things turn. Trust me.
Damn right, yeah. I'm sorry to be the one that gets you cancelled for saying all this stuff. No, I'm just joking.
No one better. No one better. No one better, baby.
Yeah, this was all just a big scam. You're gonna get cancelled for this. Nah.
At the end of the day, they're canceling you. Just be Ric Flair. You know what I mean? Feather boa, nature boy. I'm sorry. You're not.
Oh God, I can't do it because I've been sick. I tried.
All right.
Yeah, definitely not working, my boy.
William, just an aside briefly. I remember one of the first times you and I really talked a little bit on one of your posts. You said you were recovering from your fight with cancer, and you were talking about how you were a Pantera fan. You were like, "What would you do with me if you came to Scotland?" And that was your post. I was like, "We listened to Pantera and practiced karate in the park," and you were like, "Yeah."
Yeah, man, hell yeah. That was my dream.
I was like, "Yeah, dude, that's badass." I didn't know how you're going to react, but your reaction just made me be like, "Oh man, this dude is great." And
that's when you knew you respected me.
But ironically, I have cancer now, so I'm having about half of my left kidney taken out in about a month.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, brother.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so
yeah, man. I wish you all the best.
Yeah, that
maybe
really
I'll come to America and practice karate with you in the park in America.
You know what I mean?
I'll come over there. All right, just before we go, I'll just, Kaiden, if you want to add anything on to what Nils and Gene has said, be sure to do that. If you don't want to, then that's fine. We can just go around and have our closing statements.
Okay, yeah, I did want to say some things in regards to the MAGA movement as a whole.
Yeah, please do.
I think that the MAGA movement as a whole is a lot more diverse and revolutionary than leftists give it credit for. I mean, with the trucker convoy, you saw many Sikh Muslims. You saw and on social media today, I'm seeing a lot more Black people and Mexican people actually come out and say, "Oh yeah, we're MAGA. We do support Trump." And that's becoming a even bigger trend as we go, because I mean, look at the failure with Biden and the Democrats. I mean, they can't do anything, and more people are going into the Republican Party and the Trump direction more and more every single day, and that's a reality that the left really doesn't want to acknowledge, that they aren't all just white, super conservative. Many people who are MAGA voted for Obama both terms. So I don't think MAGA is some super right-wing, ethno-nationalist, super hardcore Christian guys. There's a lot more diversity in there than leftists give it credit for. And I think the very slogan, "Make America Great Again," I mean, just listen to that. That can very be reappropriated to socialist ends. I just think there's so much more potential in this MAGA movement than people can see. And I think that the MAGA is not just about Trump either. It's about the movement that rallies behind him. Trump is more a symbol for anti-establishment positions in general, just how he was talking about draining the swamp and stuff like that. I mean, that's a message millions of Americans resonated with and still resonate with. I think it would just be perfect opportunity for us to kind of wedge ourselves into that, because I mean, we are anti-establishment. We want to drain the swamp. We want to make America great again, but just using socialism. And I think this is a message that millions of people are ready for, and we just have to work hard and put our noses down and really mean what we say. And we have to humble ourselves. We can't just be above the masses. Like, there's plenty of things that MAGA will teach us too. Like, I've been wrong about a lot of things, and in retrospect, MAGA has been right. Like, I mean, the stuff with the beer bug and stuff like that. I don't know if that's still censored, but I mean, they were. I don't know your guys' personal opinions about that, but there's also a lot of things that they were just correct about, and they're in direct opposition with the rhinos and the neocon establishment. They were very against the Iraq War. Their kids had to fight in the Iraq War. Like they're not a fan of U.S. imperialism. They just get caught up in the jingoistic propaganda that has been pushed down our throats for our whole lives. But I think that finally, with this MAGA movement, there is an opening that we could take advantage of, and that's in direct opposition to our establishment. Not only as MAGA as a movement against the left, as far as the Democrats and the ultras, but they are also against the rhinos and the neocons. And to me, that's like the most fundamental part going forward is being anti-establishment. That's more important than being correct on all the cultural issues. And I think that's a pill that a lot of us have to swallow. And I'll end it there.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for that. Yeah, 100%. Just before we move on to closing statements, I just want to counteract one of these comments. Sky saying, interact with me. How are you going to convince Native Americans to follow a Eurocentric ideology, which is Marxism, communism, and socialism? Well, first of all, neither of those things are Eurocentric, and actually, the vast majority of Marxist-Leninists in the world are people of color and live in the third world. I mean, China is the most populous nation on the planet, and they have over 100 million members of the Communist Party of China. Also, Southeast Asia, the movements in Southeast Asia, the African and Latin American communist movements. The vast majority of communists that live nowadays and have ever lived weren't European. The vast majority weren't. So, yeah, I don't really understand the comment. I think maybe you're disagreeing with Nils when he said what he said about land back. I'm not sure, but you're fundamentally wrong. I mean, communism and socialism both go under Marxism philosophically. Communism is the end goal, and socialism is the transitionary period before the withering away of the state, but after the workers' revolution. So I think you need to get your facts straight before you try and criticize comrades speaking on a live stream. And apparently we're getting views. Sure, Richard. Yeah, you can call me that if you want. I don't really care. I don't really care, bro. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way. I just wanted to respond to that to that comment because it was pretty naive and ignorant. But anyway, yeah. So starting with Gene, then Nils, then Kaiden. I'll just get you to have some closing statements for this live stream.
All right. It was a pleasure being here today, talking to everyone, letting people, like Chris said. Chris, I saw mentioned it was refreshing to hear about this ideology beyond the hashtag reductionism on social media. It was our pleasure. The radical Republicans, we do hope to accomplish great things. Here in South Carolina, for instance, I'm already working with the only leftist militia in South Carolina. As part of some of my practice here, we've been doing training and in firearm survival, all that. And soon I will probably start a channel kind of educating people on some of these firearm and survival tips as well, because it's necessary, especially for those comrades of ours that live more rural or homesteading type lifestyles. And with that said, I will let it move to Nils.
All right. Am I still being heard?
Yes, you are.
I can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, my closing, I'm better at the middle part of stuff. Let's see. How to summarize. So much. So basically, at the end of the day, Malthusian eco-fascism has to be stopped. Part of the reason why I'm moving a little bit and I'm agitating with the MAGA and Republicans for now, and maybe for the rest of my life, is because I think the American communist movement is an urban movement, and that's okay, right? But it's weird because all of our urban type factory industrial jobs went overseas, and the people who live in cities really aren't the kind of workers they were 50 or 100 years ago. But at the same time, we need to be more inclusive of people who live in the country, like, MAGAs, libertarians. We have a couple libertarians in our group already in the Secretariat, too, not just in the Radical Republicans, in the controlling instruments. So, we're not afraid of libertarians. They're more than welcome. I love their perspective. They're usually rural, which makes sense, country folk. That's how things get fed. That's how things get done. So we're trying to take the movement, and put it into the masses. And you're not going to do that with liberalism and woke, superficial ideology, trying to out moralize everyone and trying to run around for clout and see who's got all the right answers that you believe in, like a bingo card, checking them off. Like, did I win the prize, most moral on the internet? Like, we don't play those games. Like, we're good. We're good people. We want good things for everyone. We want good things I want my enemies, people that hate my guts. I want their kids to have health care. You can hate my guts. You can be on a mission to kill me. I want your kids to have health care because I'm a Christian, because I'm a Marxist Leninist. I want good things for everyone, and everyone in my organization does. And we're here if anyone wants to talk or engage us further in discussion. Please don't be afraid. Thank you.
Awesome, perfect. That was a very good closing statement, despite being unprepared. Yeah, thanks for that. And last but not least, Kaiden, do we have any last words for the live stream before we wrap it up? Then go ahead.
All right, perfect. I want to start by saying, going through like a policy pitch for MAGA communism, I guess. And I think cutting taxes, especially for small businesses, and subsidizing small farms and small businesses is very key. I think that I'm reading off a list, so don't mind me looking down. Land reform is important. Like, we're against land back, right? But we're very much for land reform. Every socialist country throughout history has done significant land reforms, and I think the same will carry over here in the United States. We want reindustrialization. We want to reduce the work week. We want to nationalize big tech. We have a strong emphasis on protecting our Constitution. We want to change some things, probably. That's the minutia can be saved for later, but for the most part, we do really want to protect our Constitution. We want the Belt and Road Initiative. We want to abolish both the CIA and the FBI. Our intelligence agencies are a cancer to the American people and to people all over the world, as a matter of fact. And we want to end foreign intervention. We want more oil. We want nuclear power. We want to obviously leave NATO. We want patriotic education, and we want a literacy movement. We want to bring education back, especially into rural states. My family is from West Virginia. The roads over there are terrible. The drug problem is insane. Like, it's very sad. If you ever go to West Virginia, like, you will see some pretty bad conditions. And it's these rural MAGA states that should be open to our message more so now than ever, and they really need a lot of the things that we're talking about. And I strongly urge, if you do not necessarily agree with all of our positions, you can at least understand the logic and how we came to these conclusions, and you don't have to, MAGA communism, how evil, backwards, reactionary, We're actually trying to make communism more appealable to the everyday person, where they can actually be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I can see that you guys don't just want to throw everyone in boot camps who doesn't agree with you. You actually want to, help our country, help our people. You want better communities. You want healthier communities. And William, you did bring up a great point earlier about how you were anti-drug and for recreational use, and I very much do agree with that. Like, I do think that a lot of people, especially working class people, do get caught up. They feel the blunt end of these bad policies more so than anybody. I mean, look at the opioid crisis and the fentanyl crisis we have in the United States. You think it's the ruling class that has to deal with that? No, it's these it is our working class communities, and they are tearing them apart. And I'll stop ranting. I'm done. But there you
Yeah,
go.
no worries. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, that list was very precise and very progressive, and you had lots of good points. Very optimistic vision. So yeah, I really appreciate that. So yeah, without further ado, I mean, this is kind of the end of the live stream. If you have any more questions about this new organization, Radical Republicans, just be sure to message Gene, Nils, or Kaiden. They're all on Facebook Messenger, and I'm sure you're all on Twitter as well. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Myself,
pretty
I'm
much-
permabanned, but you can still find me on Facebook.
Okay, yeah. So mainly Facebook. So if you have any more questions about this organization, just shoot them a message, and I'm sure they'll answer you. Gene, do you have anything else? Do you
No,
wanna...
I was just gonna say I was on Twitter, but I caught a ban within a week because of rad libs.
203, you got a ban. All right, no worries. All right, yeah. So if you guys can stay behind after we stop going live, just so we can have a chat, that's fine. And
Okay, that's fine.
yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next live stream.